Hi everybody, it's meteorologist Joe Cioffi. Monday, July 23rd, 2018, coming up on almost 5:53 p.m. Eastern Time. I jumped on a little bit early as we've got some stuff going on and I had a little bit of extra free time, so I figured let me just come right on board. Hope everybody had a great weekend. I did wind up taking a day off yesterday, just needing a little bit of a break. So why don't we take a look at what's happening at the moment, because we have a few things going on. I'm going to start off with the Storm Prediction Center's view of things, and we'll notice that marginal risk of severe weather in much of North Carolina except the extreme east and the extreme west. Same for Virginia, on up through much of eastern Pennsylvania and into central New York State. A lot of this is really more rain than anything else. That is front and center the big issue in the east, where we have a large area of geography under a flash flood watch. The one place that really piques my interest tonight is this small area down in the central Gulf Coast, where we have a slight risk of severe weather that the Storm Prediction Center picked out for southeastern Louisiana. And we're going to show you what's going on there at the moment. We've got a rather interesting area of thunderstorms that developed this afternoon. It's actually it is weakening now from what it was earlier. At one point, there were at least 20,000 lightning strikes that were reported by this northwest-southeast band. And I'll go into the New Orleans radar, probably give us the best view here, and much of it now is offshore. You can see the yellow triangle box that's out here. These are the severe weather, the special marine warnings that are up for the coastal waters there. But a little while ago, when that line was a bit further northeast and a bit more intense in its structure, it was really going crazy here with some of these thunderstorms. And actually, you still have some very strong cells as you get closer to the coast in southeast Louisiana. Not too much happening in and around the New Orleans area at the moment, although it looks like one thunderstorm did develop here. That's in St. I believe that is in Jefferson Parish here, coming in off the lake and moving south-southeastward. That's more of the typical afternoon stuff that develops there. But that line is actually part of this very strong upper trough, the bottom part of the trough that's in the eastern part of the United States, and there's a fairly good little, let's call it a little bit of vorticity there, little upper trough that's dropping southeastward and around the base of the trough in the east, and that is triggering off this area of thunderstorms that's covering a large portion of the eastern and central Gulf of Mexico. The Hurricane Center's not talking about this in any way, shape, or form, but just on the zoom here, look at this is a pretty large area of storms that's out over the coastal waters. And by the way, take a look south of western Cuba here, not too far from Grand Cayman Island. Watch that blow up of thunderstorms. I love this GOES 16. You see how the clouds on the eastern edge, the cirrus just gets blown away to the east. Watch this again. That's very impressive. It shows you how detailed the GOES 16 is. I mean, just to see all the different layers of clouds is an experience enough. Now onto the east, where we do have action going on. And here's that upper trough that is up and down the eastern seaboard, along and just west of the Appalachians, just continues to feed up tropical moisture up the eastern seaboard. It's coming up in bands. We don't see a huge, widespread rain falling out of this right now. It's more in clusters and in bands that develop and then move northwestward from off the ocean, and then on up from there. When we go back to the radar, let me go back to the we'll go back to the U.S. radar and head our way into the east. By the way, you can see that there is some action going on in the southeast U.S. With some showers and storms there, and also over along the east coast of Florida today versus the west coast. But let's come back further north. By the way, you could still see the rotation of the upper low to the west of the Ohio Valley, but it's gradually becoming less and less circular and more elongated north-south. So you've got the cells on the west side of the trough. If you look back through Tennessee, and those cells are moving north to south. The cells actually, even in Indiana, some echoes that are popping up there on the radar, nothing of consequence really, but we can see the what looks like maybe the beginnings of some showers. They're moving also straight north to south, while if you go into the east, everything is coming up south to north or south-southwest, north-northeast. The bands of rain at the moment seem to be focusing their attention on northeastern Virginia, also through the central part of Pennsylvania and parts of south-central Pennsylvania, getting into some showers, a little bit less so in the northeastern part of the state. And then this rain is moving up through a good portion of north-central New York, and a lot of this area up near Lake Ontario had been experiencing drought conditions, so this rain is certainly welcomed. Also seeing some showers in upstate New York and in Vermont, New Hampshire, and northern Connecticut. There isn't too much happening down along the coast in southern New England and Long Island back to New York City at the moment. Last night we had some downpours that formed out in the ocean east of New Jersey and south of Long Island, and those came in during the evening. And then we had some that moved in during Monday morning that moved northward. But right now the attention seems to have shifted away from the coast, and that's one of the problems with trying to forecast these things. When it comes to these downpours at a trough like this that's to the west, you have a tough time. One day the band's set up in one spot, then on another day the band's set up in a different spot, and trying to figure it all out is almost impossible. I think the best way you approach it from a forecasting standpoint is you just acknowledge the fact that there is the chance for some showers and thunderstorms for everybody at some point, that there will be stretches where it won't be raining. In places where it does wind up raining, it could rain very hard in a very, very short period of time. Here's the NAMS precip view into Thursday night. Total precip. So in the darker reds, we're talking some 5-inch amounts in a narrow band there in eastern or east central Pennsylvania. Also in eastern North Carolina, we're seeing this. But just bear in mind that from run to run, you're going to see changes in where models put the max area of precip. I mean, here it was just 6 hours ago. You can see the difference of what the NAM was showing 6 hours ago and 12 hours ago. Looks like for the off-hour runs show the max precip in one place, but here's the one from last night. This was from 0Z last night, and how it displayed the area of rain. That's that narrow band of heavy rain that runs up from eastern North Carolina on up through Chesapeake Bay and into through east central Pennsylvania. The heaviest band in the reds and in the yellows showing some 7 to 8 inch amounts. Now remember, we're 18 hours into this, so there was rain there today, so the new maps are going to subtract that off a little bit. But here's the new outlook. It pretty well lines up the same way in terms of the heavy rain. Eastern North Carolina, southeast Virginia, on up through Chesapeake Bay, through east central Pennsylvania, and into upstate New York. You get lesser amounts as you head toward the coast. You get lesser amounts as you go into western Pennsylvania and beyond. But the elongated north-south trough, and you can see the outcome of how the model actually has the precip shield elongated as well, obviously. So from south to north, the heavy rains are extensive, going down into the southeastern part of the United States and going all the way up into upstate New York and into western New England. So as far as the day-to-day goes, as I said, you put the risk in there, but I think Wednesday, to me, looks like the one day where there could be widespread activity in all of this. The NAM, typically in these situations at night, you do get some diurnal effects. So you do see rain bands sometimes weakening a bit during the overnight. And then, of course, with the daytime heating, you fire them up all over again. Notice not too much on Tuesday near the coast, more inland. And then on Wednesday, this is where it gets a bit more widespread in terms of the rain and thunderstorms that's being indicated. And there's a reason for this, a very good reason. When we look at the upper structure of the upper air, and here's your trough, okay? Here's your trough in the eastern part of the United States. I went back actually to Saturday. So there's your trough. You'll notice the circular nature of the upper low yesterday, that really broad circulation gradually gets elongated north-south, which is where we are today. So you've got this southerly flow that runs pretty much from the Bahamas up to Buffalo. And then as that trough weakens over time, as we move through Tuesday and into Wednesday, another shortwave trough is going to drop down into the western lakes. And that lifts. See this patch of blue that is over the central Appalachians to the southeast coast. That is what's left of that trough. As it weakens, opens up, the next trough behind it is basically kicking it up the coast and lifting it up and out as the trough to the west gradually takes over. So this is why it's showing more widespread rain for Wednesday. And the upside to that is once it's done, we may actually see a little bit of improvement toward the end of the week. I don't think we can completely get rid of the humidity, but we might lessen the chance for showers and thunderstorms as we go through the latter part of this week. So here's Tuesday, and then here's Wednesday, even the GFS on the same page, same idea. And then by Thursday morning, everything's kind of trying to get kicked out to the east. It's having a little bit of a difficult time, but still showing some showers and storms there. And then Friday, we've got an arm that's coming down from the northwest with that next upper trough that's moving into the Great Lakes. The chance that there could be some showers and storms, you have to put them in the forecast every day. But I think after Wednesday, the chances diminish somewhat because at least things in the upper atmosphere are moving along again. However, temporary, but they are at least moving. So that is a good thing. I'm going to go back to the earlier run so we can go out a little further. And over the weekend, you start to still see some chances there in the mid-Atlantic states. Looks like some strong thunderstorm activity through the central plains. And then as we move into next week, there's going to be the issue of yet another trough dropping down into the eastern part of the United States and bringing in with it more chances for showers and thunderstorms. The other big thing that's going on right now, by the way, is hot weather and heat in two places. And one of them is in the southern plains and down through Texas. And here's, for example, the GFS from today. Well, we'll go into tomorrow anyway. It looks like at least, today a bit hotter than what the models are showing for Tuesday, but still every bit of 90s to around 100. And Wednesday, still temperatures mostly in the 90s across Texas. We've had some extreme temperatures the last couple of days. Looks like it may diminish just a little bit as that next shortwave trough coming down from the north at least puts some pressure on that ridge in flattening it out. The other place where we're having some hot weather is in the southwest, where we have some excessive heat warnings up. And here is, let's back away here. This was from the weekend, so now we're into today on the GFS, and here's tomorrow. Temperatures 100 or higher in parts of the southwest. I know this falls under excessive heat, and the GFS is probably a little bit underdone with the temperatures. But you do have 100-degree readings by Wednesday, pushing all the way up into the interior of Northern California, and also for Thursday and for Friday as well. So it looks like there's going to be a bit of a long-duration spell of hot weather in the southwest, where it's supposed to be, in Arizona, for example, but particularly throughout California. I think there we do seem to be in a position where we're going to see some excessive heat. Now, I'm going to come back to the models in just a second. I do want to at least put up SPC's forecast rainfall for the next 7 days. And this is really the reliable thing to look at. Please don't pay attention to people that are telling you, some people are hearing silliness about, 40 and 50 inch rain amounts. You really, I'm not going to really address these kind of things anymore, these sorts of questions, because they're too absurd. But I'll just bring it up one last time. I think you kind of should know by now, if you're on this channel long enough, you know the difference between what's being forecast and what's basically hyperbole. But here's the WPC's view of things in the east. A fairly large area of 3-4 inch rains and even some 5-inch rain amounts. Remember, this is all on top of what's already fallen. So a lot of areas from over the weekend, with the Saturday night low that moved up the coast and inland, some areas had gotten 2 to 3 inches of rain out of that or more. And so you're throwing on top of that another 5+. It's problematic. Here are your warnings tonight and watches. You've got the flash flood watch, that very large area in the east from North Carolina northward into south central New York State. You have heat advisories and excessive heat warnings up for parts of Texas. And then you have a large area where you have excessive heat issues in the southwest and through California. You know what? Let me just double check. I just want to correct myself in case I've made an error here, which I do that from time to time. I do occasionally make mistakes. Okay, I just wanted to make sure that what was shown on the map, these are excessive heat warnings as opposed to the excessive heat watch. You know what? It's hot and it's summertime. And this is, again, if we're talking about 90s in Texas in the summertime, that's kind of how it's supposed to be. Okay, and if we're talking about 100 to 110 degree readings in the southwest, that's kind of how it's supposed to be. If we're talking about 100+ temperatures up along coastal southern and central California, that at least, is something that is a bit different. So we want to make that part of it. That part should stand out. By the way, we also have still flash flood watches up for eastern Colorado, parts of New Mexico, and a small area of severe thunderstorm watch up for parts of southeastern Colorado. It is 10 minutes after 6 Eastern time, and as I've been saying, and I just want to make it clear, if you're watching this on a replay tonight, please be advised that the satellites and radars are obviously dated, especially when it comes to severe weather. So you want to check with your local National Weather Service office by going to weather.gov so that you make sure you have the latest watches and warnings, okay? And you're not using the information you're seeing here, because by the time you see it, it is going to be dated. Okay, let me come back to the GFS. I want to talk about a little bit. The tropics are pretty quiet on the Atlantic side, and we'll bring up the upper air pattern going forward. You still, you're going to have some issues here. Once you got the trough in the east, and remember, I've been saying this is where you don't want a tropical system to be somewhere off the southeast coast of the United States or east of the Bahamas or north of Hispaniola or Puerto Rico, because then there would be an opening for it to move up the east coast. We don't have anything to speak of. The trough wants to stay in the east. The ridge on both coasts, off the east coast and off the west coast, go through periods where they strengthen and weaken and strengthen and weaken. And it is likely that the Atlantic ridge is going to try to build back westward as we go later into the forecast period through the first days of August. But there's still going to be the tendency for a trough to want to come into the eastern part of the United States. In fact, the European, and we'll have to see if we get confirmation of this, but I'll just back up the European. Here's the trough now that we're dealing with, and of course that lifts out, and then it handles the one that follows for early next week differently, and almost at least for a day or two kind of wants to have the same look of what we have now, except it's a little bit further to the west. So we'll see if that's right. The GFS is not quite as vigorous with this short wave dropping down southward, but you know, patterns do like to repeat themselves, and I don't want to discount the possibility that the European here might be onto something. As far as the Atlantic tropics are concerned, I've got the full loop here, and look at there are a couple of things to look closely at. So now we're going into daytime today. Big swirl out here in the Atlantic east of Bermuda is a large upper low, a cold upper low that creates unfavorable conditions for tropical storm development. You got all sorts of wind shear going on northeast of Hispaniola and Puerto Rico out into the Atlantic. You see how the low-level clouds are going west to east and the high-level clouds are going southwest to northeast. Those are those strong upper air winds. So that upper low, you know, while it's there, will probably keep things from developing off the southeast coast of the United States. You do have that flare-up of convection in the Gulf of Mexico. My suspicion is that that'll probably weaken after dark. We'll see what happens. With the Hurricane Center not really talking about that too much. There looks like there's some kind of tropical wave coming off the African coast. You can see it there on the last couple of frames there as it goes to sunset. The bright white cloud tops that are approaching. That looks like a fairly vigorous tropical wave that will probably move off in another day or two. And we'll see what the upper air conditions are like in the Atlantic. The clouds coming down from north to south, from Portugal and Spain, north to the northwest coast of Africa, and then they turn westward. They're moving at a pretty good clip, so there might be a little bit of easterly shear going on here, but we'll see. Still got this problem with the African dust out there. You can still pick it out on the satellite. That has not relaxed enough, I think, in order to not be getting in the way. But still, we're at just July 23rd. Last year, if you recall, it was fairly quiet until we got to the middle of August when we got to Harvey. So the fact that we're quiet again right now is not something that is unusual. It's funny how the Pacific side, by the way, is also on the quiet side. There have been several waves. There have been several tropical waves that looked as if they were going to get going into some kind of tropical systems in the eastern Pacific, and those all fell apart. I wonder how much of the Saharan dust is making it across the Caribbean and across Mexico and out to the other side. That could be impeding development. I'm not 100% sure. I haven't really given that part of the Pacific, the hurricane breeding grounds. I really haven't given that too much attention. I'll have to look at that a little bit deeper. But still seeing that the Saharan dust is having an impact on the tropical side in the Atlantic. So a good evening to everybody. Small but active crowd here tonight. Nice to see everyone. Let's see. Timothy Veltman, the word for today was wet and humid. Oh boy, tell me about it. It's so humid here. I go back to that week back at the beginning of July when we had the humidity and the heat together. This is just more humidity than anything else, but every time the sun comes out, it just feels that much worse. Although I will say this, at least where I am, or where I'm not there now, but when I'm home in central Long Island, yesterday afternoon about 3 or 4 o'clock, I don't know if there's some kind of sea breeze front came in. I really didn't look at it too close, but it suddenly got nice and sunny for a couple of hours before the downpours came in offshore, and the wind picked up, and it also felt like the dew points might have dropped by a couple of notches. I don't know, it just seemed that way. It suddenly got a bit more comfortable yesterday afternoon, if only for a short time, and then the downpours came in from off the ocean, and it was back to where we started from. Pete Frisella, is it too early to predict the winter? Some say it's going to be a cold one. Pete, somebody I think was maybe on Twitter today and saw some tweets by a couple of folks looking at some long range stuff. I happened to see some tweets from a few people, and looking at the long range climate models that are on tropicaltidbits.com, and you can take a look at them for yourself, and commenting about the upper air structure. It's way too early, in my view, to look at that sort of stuff. My head is still so focused on hurricane season. I'm not even thinking that far ahead. Let's get through the summer and into the early fall, and then we could start looking at it when we start looking at Siberian snow cover. All is well here, T-Bear. Starting to get scary here. Some places real close to me underwater. The rainfall amounts in eastern Pennsylvania. By the way, Hershey Park was closed today because of the flooding. The whole park was underwater. And Anthony Orr told me there was one other park in central PA. The name escapes me, but that also was closed today. James Holtz, upstate New York, absolutely needed the precip, especially in north central New York, in and around Lake Ontario, where everything's burned up there, up in near Watertown, Pulaski, and north of Syracuse. Just absolutely bone dry, and rivers are very, very low. So the rain is certainly welcomed. Although the system that came up Saturday night into Sunday morning also caused some severe weather up there, with knocking trees down and so forth. Let's see. Okay, weather and low. I'm going to address what you're asking. Where you find this stuff from, and I'm starting to wonder whether you're just doing this to break my chops. But 40 inches of rain at Norfolk. Please cut it out. Stop looking at other people's YouTubes. Okay, you just need to be looking at mine, and then you'd leave a much calmer life. You used to live in Central California, ZUK4116B. Zuk, I'm going to call you from here on. Beautiful, the state of California, gorgeous state, but one of the big issues, they built in a lot of places where they probably shouldn't have, and especially in areas that are prone to fires, for example. But this is the world we live in. Very definitely hot weather for Southern California and Central California. More the interior than the coast, but in Southern California, even coastal areas will taste some of that hot weather. And very tropical, William Huber, no doubt about it, where we are, like a soup bowl as far as I'm concerned. Garden took some damage Saturday night for Cullen, and that line of storms was legit in northwest New Jersey, no doubt. That arced up. There was some fairly decent rainfall amounts of 2 to 3.5 inches across New Jersey and eastern Pennsylvania, and there were also some wind gusts of 50 to 60 miles an hour Saturday night along the New Jersey coast. I didn't quite make it up beyond that, but models kind of had a 50-50 performance when it came to Saturday's system. Because it seemed like it was a little bit too vigorous on the northern end, and part of the problem with the Saturday system, in my view, was the fact that the track of the low was just simply too far to the west. If you bring a low too far west, you've got it lessens the impact on the coast and increases the impact in inland sections and the further west going into Pennsylvania. And remember, I think I pointed this out on Saturday. The early model runs with regards to the system that we had on Saturday were further east. And in fact, a lot of models were having a tough time bringing rainfall west of the New Jersey-Pennsylvania line, and it wound up being a couple of 100 miles further west than that. Michael Lonergan, nice to see you here. Hope everything is well. Howard Vanderhoff, the dew point at 74. It's like swimming in a sponge in northwest New Jersey and everywhere else in our neck of the woods. Stephanie Sparks, Nobels is the second. Thank you. I hope I said it right. It's Nobels is the second amusement park in Pennsylvania that was closed today. Thank you very much for sharing that. Central CUK. Did I misread when you said that? You said California. Did I misread that? Oh, I'm sorry. I saw LA, so my brain went to Los Angeles. Central Louisiana. Okay, so I used to live in Southeast Louisiana. So I lived in New Orleans for 3 years back in the mid-1980s. And I saw some really interesting thunderstorm activity over that time frame. It was weather-wise, New Orleans is such a crazy place. You could set your watch to the summertime afternoon thunderstorm, usually at around 2 or 3 o'clock every day, same time. And some of the storms that I experienced were amazing, absolutely amazing. Oh, Fallen Angel, thank you for reminding me. You know what? I am going to leave a note for a friend of mine right now. And thank you. I apologize. While this was running, I actually was thinking that somebody asked me for something to do something, and I forgot. And you are one of those. You were one of those requests. I will take care of it. I promise you. And actually, if you can, I don't know if you're on Facebook. Maybe if you are, you could send me a message and I'll try to respond to you directly. I think you can message me here on YouTube. I did read that they were getting rid of that, but if you still can, maybe you can message me direct on YouTube and I'll try and get the answer. You were in Alexandria. One of my friends actually also from that area as well. But Priscilla Mayu, temps 95, heat index at 106. Yep, that's typical southern Louisiana. It's the middle of summertime. I'm not at all surprised. Okay, folks, let's see. 31 minutes tonight. Not bad. Send me that message, Fallen Angel. I will take care of it. Okay, so we will be back tomorrow at our usual time. But before tomorrow, there's tonight. And we'll probably have a Joe and Joe weather show tonight sometime after 9 o'clock. On my Facebook page, meteorologist Joe Cioffi, or on Joe Rayo's Facebook page, Joe Rayo Weather. Also, just to mention, there's an Amazon link on the descriptor to this live stream and on the descriptor to this video, and also a link to Ebates. We're a participant in the Associates program with both Amazon and Ebates and their affiliate advertising programs designed for to provide a means for this channel to earn fees by linking to Amazon and Ebates and their affiliated sites. So if you shop on Amazon and if you use Ebates, I get some coin thrown back. It's not out of your pocket, and everybody's happy. And I appreciate those of you who have done just that. FiOS coming to Brookhaven, Reaver. You need to call the councilman in Brookhaven. There's some kind of exclusivity deal that they signed years ago, apparently with Optimum, and I think that is still being exercised. So unless you're on the edges of Brookhaven town or in a few odd pockets, it's going to be a long time. I was first told that FiOS was coming to Brookhaven about 8 or 9 years ago, and I'm still waiting. So I think you need to call the town council and talk to your local official about that, because it is I as a disclosure, I do work for I'm on FiOS 1 News. I would like to be able to watch FiOS 1 when I'm home, so this way I can see what my coworkers are doing. So exactly, that Fallen Angel. There will never be FiOS in Brookhaven. Not while there's an exclusivity. I think that's what the problem is. I really don't know for sure. But you need to check with that. Don't knock Rich Hoffman. Rich Hoffman's a good guy. I've known Rich for a long time. He's okay. All right, folks. So let's leave it at that. Just trying to think if there's anything else going on. No, things are pretty, fairly as advertised. Fallen Angel, I'll take care of your stuff. Everybody have a great evening, and we'll see you tomorrow when we live stream once again right here on YouTube.